Transition from Middle Ages to modern. Literature from Chaucer to Spenser marks a significant transition from medieval to Renaissance. It is an era of development in English language and literature that reflected the works of many writers. Renaissance, a cultural and artistic movement, witnessed flourishing of literature in the Golden Age in English literary history. Reformation, a 16th century religious movement. These two movements in English literature, which began a new phase of transforming human culture and brought new ideas, exploring diverse themes and forms, etc. Elizabethan England. Elizabethan era considered the golden age in English history. England became a major European power. The arts flourished. The time of Renaissance that inspired classical ideas. It was an era of exploration and international expansion. The Elizabethan era is famous for theatres, as it created professional actors who performed plays for publics. It marked the foundation for modern English theatre. Murder, revenge, jealousy are the common themes in plays, and playwrights used complex characters in their plays. The common features including awakening of human mind, trade in England flourished, voyages and adventures, flowering of literature, age of social contentment, political peace and stability, intense patriotism. In literature, translation of classics from Plato to Plutarch and Montaigne, the Latin comedies of Terence and Plautus made a great impact. James I, author of The King is Queer. It marks the beginning of the golden age of Scottish literature. William Dunbar, a Scottish court poet who dominated figure in Scottish poets. His poetry associated with the court of King James I. His famous poem, The Golden Touch, explores the theme of love, beauty, etc. Robert Henryson, greatest of the Middle poets, who known for his poem Lament for the Mackeress. His poetry reflects the Scottish mind of his time. Sir David Lindsay. His longer work, written in rhyme real stanza, is a dream allegory about the abuse of power by kings, rulers, popes, and the sufferings of common man. Gawain Douglas, one of the Scottish poets in the company of court poets or mackeress. John Skelton, considered the first poet of early Tudor period. He is known as a satirical and humorous poet, and his poetry reflects the 15th century English society. His meter Skeltonic, his own form of verse, a jingling octosyllabic couplet. Chaucer's contemporary Thomas Occleve has been identified as an autobiographical poet. John Lydgate, one of the leading English poets of the 15th century, best known for his longer narrative poems and his allegorical piece, The Temple of Glass. William Camden, his long poem Britannia, a detailed survey of England's history, politics, and its landscape. Stephen Hawes, his chief work, The Pastime of Pleasure, is a romantic homiletic poem in rhyme royal stanza. Alexander Barclay, his Ship of Urquhart Eclogues, is an English collection of pastorals which expose a picture of country life of the day. John Haywood, famous for his drama The Four Piece and The Spider and the Fly. William Caxton, who established printing press in England and to be the first retailer of printed books in English. Roger Ascham, known for his Taxophilus and the Schoolmaster, is a tract on education, a classic of Renaissance prose. John Fisher, famous for his prose style, written in the style of orator, frequent use of rhetorical figures of speech, beginning of ornate style. High Latimer, known for his sermons. Sir Thomas More, first English translation of his major work, Utopia. It is a visionary work describing vision for the future mankind. Elizabethan era witnessed many different translations of the Bible, which had a profound impact on the religion and landscape in Britain. Thomas Cranmer, he produced 42 religious articles and edited Book of Common Prayer. Elizabethan poetry, silver poets Thomas Yard and Henry Howard. They learned from italics, followed Italian poet Petrarch. Yard first introduced sonnet to English. Henry Howard and Elof Surrey invented English form of sonnet. These songs and sonnets published in Miscellany. Surrey introduced the blank verse in English. Richard Tuttle, who published Songs and Sonnets, collection of sonnets by Surrey and Yard. Michael Drayton, a versatile English poet whose most famous sonnet sequence Ideas Mirror, and he was first to write odes in English in the manner of Horace. William Shakespeare, greatest dramatist and poet, his sonnets addressed to William Herbert or Mr. W.H. or Dark Lady. Philip Sidney, famous poet and initiator of Literary Club. Edmund Spenser and Philip Sidney co-founded a literary club, Areopagus. Sidney's sonnet sequence later used by many writers in their works. Astrophel and Stella, Sidney's sonnet sequence, and his passion for Penelope. Acadia, a series of verse eclogues, a short dramatic poem mainly in pastoral theme. It's a story about the life of a shepherd in Acadia. There are two versions, Old Acadia and the New Acadia. Edmund Spenser has been called poet's poet, hailed by Charles Lamb. His contribution in English literature is an originator of Spenser in stanza. Spenser's first major poetic work, The Shepherd's Calendar. 12 books, one for each month of the year. Discussion between shepherd and pastorals. 12 knights representing different virtues, modeled by ancient Greek poets. Spenser's romantic epic, The Faerie Queene, written in Spenser in stanza. Central figure of the epic, Prince Arthur. 12 books Spenser planned, only 6 published during his lifetime, and the portions of 7th published after his death. Epithalamion is an ode written by Spenser. It's a marriage song presenting 24 stanzas, 24 hours of Midsummer Day. Next one, Bartholomew, celebrating double marriage of Lady Elizabeth and Lady Catherine Somerset, daughters of Earl of Worcester. Spenser's sonnet sequence, Amority, deals with love, lovers' happiness, and separation before marriage, and the final part, extreme emotional. Spenser's melodious verse, Four Hymns, and his prose piece, View of the Present State of Ireland, describing Ireland's customs and laws to its bards and poetry. Michael Drayton, a versatile English poet whose most famous sonnet sequence, Ideas Mirror. He was first to write odes in English in the manner of Horace. Walter Raleigh, famous explorer of Elizabethan England, one of the most notable figure of the Elizabethan era who wrote poems to the Queen. He was a pioneer in the English colonization of North America. Elizabethan lyric poetry is characterized by its expressions of emotions, enthusiastic joy in life, explorations of personal feelings, and musical qualities. And these lyrical songs, which became popular during this era.